Welcome back to the Microgrid Minute, everybody. You know, we're all talking about the future of energy these days.
Definitely a hot topic.
It really is. And today, we're diving into something pretty exciting, how microgrids are shaking things up compared to the traditional power grids we're all used to.
It's a big one, that's for sure.
It is. It's a big change.
Yeah.
And I think this quote really sums it up.
Okay.
You know, A.J. Perkins said, traditional grids chase efficiency. Microgrids embody self-sufficiency.
I like that.
I do too. One thrives on size, the other on sovereignty.
Ooh, sovereignty.
Yeah, it really seems like microgrids are all about
Yeah.
giving power back to the people, right?
In a way, yeah. They're definitely shifting the balance.
Okay, so before we get too deep into that,
Sure.
maybe we should start with the basics.
Always a good place, sure.
What exactly is a microgrid? Is it just like a bunch of solar panels on someone's roof?
Well, it can involve solar panels, but it's a bit more complex than that. Think of it as a localized power system, kind of like a mini power station designed to serve a specific area.
Right.
It could be a business campus, a neighborhood, even a small town.
So it's self-contained.
Exactly. And it can operate on its own or connect to the main grid.
Got it. So it's not just some DIY project in the backyard.
Not quite. It's much more sophisticated than that.
Okay, so if a microgrid is this self-contained unit,
Yeah.
how is that really different from the huge power grids we have now?
Well, one of the biggest differences is where the energy comes from.
Okay.
With traditional power grids, you have these massive centralized power plants.
Right, way out in the middle of nowhere.
Often, yeah.
Yeah.
And they generate electricity far from where it's actually used.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Department of Energy estimates that we can lose something like 8% to 15% of electricity just during transmission.
Wow. That's a lot of wasted energy.
It is. And microgrids address that by generating power close to where it's consumed,
Oh, I see.
fewer losses, greater efficiency.
So it's local and efficient.
Exactly.
What else makes them different?
Well, traditional grids often rely on just one source of energy.
Like coal or natural gas.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And that can be a problem. But microgrids, they're much more flexible.
I'm guessing A.J. Perkins had something to say about this.
Of course he did. He said, microgrids love variety.
I bet he did.
They can incorporate a mix of sources.
Okay.
Solar, wind, conventional generators, even things like fuel cells.
So it's like a buffet of energy options.
Exactly. And that makes them more adaptable and resilient.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, if one source goes down, the microgrid can just switch to another one.
Oh, that's smart. Especially with the crazy weather we've been having lately.
Exactly. Reliability is crucial these days.
So if a storm hits and the power goes out, a microgrid can actually disconnect from the main grid.
Yeah, they have this ability to island.
Island.
It's a term we use.
Okay.
They can disconnect and operate independently.
Wow. That's huge for businesses that can't afford any downtime.
It is. And for communities that rely on essential services.
Hold on, island? You mean like a deserted island?
Haha, yeah, it's a good analogy. Think of it like being cut off from the mainland.
I get it.
The island has to rely on its own resources.
So during a blackout,
Right.
a microgrid can just keep humming along, powering homes and businesses.
That's the idea.
It's like having your own little power oasis.
It is.
That's got to be a huge relief for anyone who's been through a power outage.
It definitely brings peace of mind.
And it sounds like it's a big part of making our energy systems more resilient overall.
Exactly. The Department of Energy is really focused on that right now.
Really?
Yeah, they're doing a lot of research on how microgrids can help prevent those widespread blackouts.
That's amazing.
It is.
So microgrids aren't just about keeping the lights on.
Right.
They're about taking control, right?
Absolutely. And that control extends to how the energy is managed within the microgrid itself.
Okay, now you're talking my language.
All right. I need like that part.
I love efficiency. Tell me more about this.
All right, so microgrids use these advanced energy management systems.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, think of it like a super smart brain that's monitoring everything in real time.
Okay, so we're not just talking about flipping a switch here.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
This is high-tech stuff.
So tell me, what can these systems actually do?
Well, they can predict energy demand, balance output from different sources, and even prioritize which things need power most during an emergency.
That's incredible.
It's a whole new level of energy efficiency.
Okay, I'm impressed.
Good.
But what about the environmental side of things?
Yeah,
We hear all this talk about microgrids being green and sustainable.
sure.
Are they really living up to the hype?
You know, A.J. Perkins summed it up perfectly when he said, microgrids are inherently more sustainable.
I knew he'd have something to say about that.
He always does.
Okay, so how are they more sustainable?
Well, by using renewables and reducing those transmission losses we talked about, microgrids can have a much smaller carbon footprint than traditional grids.
So it's not just about saving money and being resilient.
Nope.
It's also about helping the planet.
Absolutely. That's a major benefit for a lot of folks these days.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Local energy, diverse sources, resilience, smart technology, environmental benefits.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It sounds like microgrids have a lot to offer.
They really do.
But what does all this actually mean for businesses and cities and municipalities?
That's the key question, right?
It is. What are the real-world benefits for them?
Well, let's start with cost effectiveness.
Okay.
For businesses, on-site power generation means they can potentially save money on their energy bills.
I bet they love that.
They do,
Yeah.
especially during those peak demand times when prices skyrocket.
Yeah, those are brutal.
They are,
Yeah.
but it's not just about cost savings.
What else is there?
It also gives businesses more energy independence. They're less affected by price fluctuations or grid outages.
That's huge.
It is. More stability, more peace of mind.
I can see why businesses would be all over that.
They definitely are. And then there's the whole sustainability angle.
Oh yeah, that's big these days.
It is. Companies are really focused on their environmental impact.
And how does a microgrid help with that?
Well, implementing a microgrid is a very visible way to show your commitment to sustainability.
It's like a big green badge of honor.
Haha, kinda.
So it's good for business, good for the planet,
Right.
and good PR.
Exactly. It's a win-win-win.
Okay, so let's say a business or a city decides they want to explore microgrids.
Right.
What are the first steps? It can't be as simple as flipping a switch, right?
You're right. It's a bit more involved than that.
Okay.
The first step is a feasibility study.
What is that?
It's basically an assessment to see if a microgrid makes sense for their specific situation.
Oh, so like an energy checkup before you dive in.
Exactly. They need to understand their energy needs,
Right.
their consumption patterns, and the potential of a microgrid for their location. Once they know it's feasible, then comes the design and planning stage.
Okay.
And that's where they'll work with experienced microgrid integrators.
Oh, so they need to find experts to help them design the system.
Yeah, it's not a DIY project.
What do those integrators do?
Well, they'll help tailor the system to the client's exact requirements.
Okay.
Things like available space, energy demands, and the best mix of energy sources.
So it's like getting a custom-made energy solution.
Exactly. And finding the right team of experts is crucial.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they need experience and expertise to make sure everything runs smoothly.
And don't forget about the red tape. Permits and regulations and all that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Navigating that landscape is a crucial part of the process.
It sounds complicated.
It can be, but that's why you need experienced professionals to guide you.
Okay, so once the planning is done,
Right.
it's on to installation and integration.
Yep. And again, working with experienced professionals is key.
Got it. Now, what happens once the microgrid is up and running?
Good question. Microgrids have sophisticated management systems.
Okay.
They monitor performance and alert operators to any potential issues.
But it's not completely autonomous, right?
Not quite. Like any complex system, it needs regular maintenance
Okay.
and sometimes troubleshooting
I
to
see.
make sure everything keeps humming along smoothly.
So it's not set it and forget it.
No, but there's a high level of automation and intelligent control.
Well, that's still pretty impressive.
It is.
It sounds like microgrids are a whole new way of thinking about energy.
Absolutely.
It's not just a technology upgrade.
Right.
It's a fundamental shift.
I agree. It's a more decentralized, more resilient, and more sustainable way to empower businesses and communities.
And A.J. Perkins put it best, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He said, so if you're ready to future-proof your business, it's time to explore the untapped potential of microgrids. It's like a call to action.
It is.
For anyone who's ready to take control of their energy future.
Absolutely. And there are so many possibilities out there.
It's exciting to think about.
It really is. The future of energy is changing right before our eyes.
And microgrids are leading the way.
They are. They're paving the path to a more resilient, sustainable, and decentralized energy landscape.
And that's something worth talking about, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It's a conversation that needs to happen.
So let's keep talking about it. We'll be back next week with more on microgrids and the future of energy.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, stay curious about the possibilities.
Absolutely. The future is full of them.
And thanks for joining us on the Microgrid Minute.
Thanks, everyone. They can predict energy demand, balance output from different sources, and even prioritize which things need power most during an emergency.
Wow.
It's a whole new level of energy efficiency.
Okay, that is seriously impressive. But what about the environmental side of things?
Yeah.
We hear a lot about how microgrids are green and sustainable.
Right.
Are they really living up to the hype?
You know, A.J. Perkins had a great quote about this. He said,
He always does.
microgrids are inherently more sustainable, and he's right.
Okay, so how are they more sustainable?
Well, by using renewables and reducing those transmission losses we talked about,
Right.
microgrids can have a much smaller carbon footprint than those big traditional grids.
Ah, so it's not just about saving money and being resilient.
It's not just about that.
It's also about helping the planet.
Exactly. And that's a big deal for businesses and communities focused on sustainability goals these days.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Local energy, diverse sources, resilience, smart technology, environmental benefits.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. It sounds like microgrids have a lot to offer.
They do.
But what does this actually mean for the folks on the ground?
Right. Good question.
What are the real-world benefits for businesses, cities, and municipalities?
Yeah, let's talk about cost effectiveness.
Okay.
For businesses, on-site power generation means they depend less on the main grid and potentially save money on their energy bills.
Especially during those peak demand times when energy prices go through the roof.
Exactly. That's right. And it's not just about the cost savings either.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. It also gives them more energy independence.
Okay.
So they're less affected by price fluctuations or grid outages, which means more stability and peace of mind.
I can definitely see why businesses would love that kind of control and predictability.
For sure.
Okay, so there's cost savings,
Yeah.
energy independence. What else?
Well, there's also a growing emphasis on environmental and social responsibility these days.
That's true.
And implementing a microgrid is a really visible way to show your commitment to sustainability and innovation.
So it's not just good for business.
It's not just good for business.
It's good for your brand image, too.
It resonates with customers, investors, employees, everybody.
It's a win-win-win situation then.
It really is.
Okay, so let's say a business or a city is ready to take the plunge and explore microgrids.
Okay,
What are the first steps they need to take?
sure.
It can't be as simple as just flipping a switch, right?
You're right. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. The first step is a thorough feasibility study.
A feasibility study.
Yeah. They need to understand their specific energy needs, their consumption patterns, and the potential of a microgrid for their location.
So it's like getting a customized energy checkup before you even start designing the system.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I like it.
Once they know it's feasible, then comes the design and planning stage.
Okay.
And that's where they'll work with experienced microgrid integrators to tailor the system to their exact requirements.
So that's where the real expertise comes in.
Yeah, for sure.
Finding a team that can create a system that's efficient, reliable, and meets all their unique needs.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the regulations and permits.
Oh, right, of course.
Navigating that landscape is crucial for a smooth implementation process.
So it's not just about the technology itself.
It's not just about the technology.
There are legal and financial aspects to consider too.
Exactly. And once the planning's done, then it's on to installation and integration. Again, working with experienced professionals is key here to avoid any hiccups during the transition.
It sounds like there are a lot of moving parts to manage.
There are.
Okay, so once the microgrid is up and running, does it pretty much run itself, or does it require a lot of hands-on management?
That's a good question. Microgrids have these sophisticated management systems to monitor performance and alert operators to any potential issues.
Okay.
But like any complex system, it needs regular maintenance and occasional troubleshooting
I see.
to ensure everything runs smoothly.
So it's not completely autonomous,
Right.
but there's a high level of automation and intelligent control.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And that's really the key takeaway here. Microgrids are a fundamental shift in how we approach energy. It's a more decentralized, resilient, and sustainable way to empower businesses and communities.
So we're not just talking about a technology upgrade here.
No, we're not.
We're talking about a whole new way of thinking about energy.
Exactly. And remember what A.J. Perkins said?
Oh, he's back.
So if you're ready to future-proof your business, it's time to explore the untapped potential of microgrids.
I love that it's a call to action for anyone looking to take control of their energy future. It really is inspiring. So for our listeners out there who are ready to take that plunge,
Yeah.
where do they even begin? How do you find the right people to help you navigate this whole microgrid world?
Well, it can definitely seem overwhelming at first.
Yeah.
But there are resources available.
Okay, good.
You can start by connecting with experienced microgrid integrators.
Okay.
These are the folks who can guide you through the whole
All
process,
right.
from that initial feasibility study we talked about all the way to installation and ongoing management.
So they're like the microgrid gurus.
Exactly. They know all the ins and outs.
Okay, so how do you find these experts? Are we talking about like endless Google searches?
You can definitely search online,
Yeah,
but we actually have a much easier way.
even better.
We put together a list of reputable microgrid integrators on our website
Oh, fantastic.
and a ton of other helpful resources,
Like what?
case studies, upcoming webinars, all sorts of things.
That's awesome. We'll make sure to include a link in the show notes so everyone can check it out.
Perfect.
You know, as we wrap up today,
Yeah.
I want to leave everyone with something to think about.
Okay.
We've talked about how microgrids can empower individual businesses and communities.
Right.
But imagine if we took it a step further.
Okay. I'm listening.
What if we started connecting those microgrids together,
Yeah.
creating a whole network of these resilient and sustainable energy hubs?
It's a fascinating idea.
Right.
And it's something that researchers and policymakers are actually exploring.
Really?
Yeah, they're looking at how these networks of microgrids could work together,
Wow.
sharing resources, balancing loads, and creating a much more robust and adaptable energy system for everyone.
It's like weaving a stronger, smarter energy fabric for the future.
Exactly.
It's so inspiring to think about how microgrids could be the building blocks of this more decentralized and resilient energy grid. It really is.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today.
Yeah, it flew by.
It really did. Thanks for joining us on the Microgrid Minute.
It was a pleasure being here.
We hope you found this deep dive informative and maybe even sparked some new ideas about the future of energy.
I hope so too.
Until next time, stay curious about the possibilities.
Absolutely.